I've had fares that paid me a fortune and fares that tried to kill me. But this one was different. This was the night a millionaire offered me her entire fortune, millions of dollars, to drive her to her death. I was sitting in my cab holding the keys to a woman's life and a fortune that could change mine forever. The question wasn't if I would take the money. The question was, could I take the money and live with what I had to do? It was a cold, clear night. I was parked outside the city's most exclusive high-rise, the kind of building where the doorman wears white gloves. I got a call for a private fare. When I pulled up, a woman was waiting. She was old, might be in her late 70s, but dressed impeccably. Real diamonds, real fur, the kind of wealth that whispers instead of shouts. She got in, and the first thing I noticed was her eyes. They were the saddest eyes I had ever seen. Empty, like a house that had been vacant for years. She gave me an address. The old lighthouse at Point Reyes, the one that's been abandoned for 50 years. That was a 3-hour drive, mostly through winding, dark roads. That's a long way, ma'am. Are you sure that's where you want to go? She reached into a purse and pulled out a checkbook. She wrote a number and slid it through the partition. It was for $50,000. She said, "That's your payment, and that's just the beginning." I stared at the check. $50,000 for a 3-hour drive. Ma'am, I appreciate the generosity, but I can't accept this much for a fare." She smiled, a sad, knowing smile. "It's not for the fare, son. It's for the silence and for the service." Then she looked me straight in the eye in a rearview mirror. "I'm going there to die, and I need you to drive me." The air in the cab instantly changed. It went from a simple fare to a moral battlefield. "Ma'am, I can't do that," I said, my voice tight. "I can take you to a hospital or police station, anywhere else, but I can't take you there." She sighed, a sound of deep, profound weariness. "You don't understand. I'm not asking you to kill me. I'm asking you to be my chauffeur for the final journey. I have no family left, no friends. I have millions of dollars and not a single person to share it with or to say goodbye to." Then she pulled out a thick legal-looking document. "This is my will. I've already signed it. I'm leaving everything to a foundation, but I'm adding a codicil right now." She took a pen and with a steady hand wrote a line at the bottom of the document. She slid it back to me. The codicil read, "To the driver of the taxi that takes me to Point Reyes on this date, I bequeath the sum of $5 million for his kindness and discretion." $5 million. My entire life, my children's lives, my grandchildren's lives changed forever. All I had to do was drive. The silence in the cab was immense. I could hear the rain outside, the ticking of a watch. She continued. "I'm not asking you to do anything illegal," she said, her voice gentle. "I'm simply asking you to respect my final wish. I have a terminal illness. I have 6 months left, and I refuse to spend them in a sterile bed. I want to see the ocean one last time. I want to choose my own ending." She had me. The terminal illness, the loneliness, the sheer crushing weight of her wealth, and the $5 million. I started the car. I drove. For the next 2 hours, she told me her life story. She was a titan of industry, a pioneer. She had built an empire from nothing, but she had sacrificed everything for it. A husband, her children, her soul. She wasn't a villain. She was a victim of her own success. As we drove, she kept talking about the lighthouse, how she used to go there as a child with a father, how it was the only place she ever felt truly free. I started to feel a connection to her, not as a millionaire, but as a human being who was desperately lonely. I had to find a way out. I couldn't take it to her death, but I couldn't just stop the car and abandon her. We were about 10 minutes from the lighthouse. The road was narrow, winding, and the fog was rolling in thick from the ocean. "Stop here," she commanded. "I want to walk the rest of the way." I pulled over. I turned off the engine. "Thank you, son," she said, her voice full of gratitude. "You've been a good man." She reached for the door handle. I turned around in my seat, facing her fully. "Ma'am, I can't take the money," I said. She looked surprised. "Why not? It's yours. It's clean." "Because if I take it, I'm just another thing you bought," I explained. "You bought your company, you bought your house, you bought your silence. You can't buy my conscience." I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. I dialed 911. "I have a passenger here," I said into the phone, keeping my eyes locked on hers. "She's elderly, terminally ill, and she's threatening to harm herself at the Point Reyes lighthouse. She needs help." She didn't scream. She didn't fight. She just looked at me with a look of profound disappointment. "You ruined it," she whispered. "You ruined my final choice." "No, ma'am," I said gently. "I just gave you another one." The police and an ambulance arrived quickly. They took her away, gently, respectfully. I was left alone on the dark road, the $5 million codicil still sitting on my passenger seat. I tore it up. I never saw her again. I heard through the grapevine that she was placed in a private hospice where she lived out her final months with dignity. I didn't get the $5 million. I went home and had to explain to my wife why I was late and why I was so shaken. I told her the truth. I learned that night that money can buy almost anything, but it can't buy peace and it can't buy a clean conscience. I could have been a millionaire, but I would have been a millionaire who drove a lonely old woman to her death. I still drive that cab. I'm still broke, but every time I see that old lighthouse in the distance, I know I made the right choice. I chose a life of struggle over a life of guilt. And that, I realized, is a fortune all its own.